Since 1988, Dr. Patricia McManus has headed the Black Health Coalition of Wisconsin. In February of 2018, she became the head of the health department for the city of Milwaukee. She served for more than 6 months in that interim position. She joins us for her first interview since leaving that office. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
So when you took over, things were in a mess. Can you describe how bad things were?
One of the things about it was that even in terms of how I got there, trying to denotes a little bit of the mess that it was in, because there was an issue between the council and the mayor didn't want me there. So even trying to figure out everything, it was, everything was in the paper about the lead issues and the kids not getting, screened and some of the other things that were going on. So part of that was even figuring out, I knew it was a mess, but even what the mess was, and what was going on, and trying to get information from everybody. With the previous commissioner leaving, Bevan Baker, who was a good friend of mine, understanding as I got in there some of the real things that happened as to why some of the things he wanted to do, he couldn't do. And I actually got some of that same stuff when I got there. I was able to see a little bit more of what happened, although I was different than him. So I was able to deal with some of the issues more. Even in terms of, like you're saying, the interim position, the position wasn't interim. I was the commissioner, which people had a hard time saying that. But when I got sworn in, the city clerk wanted me to understand that there was no such thing as an interim position, and he said, I need you to understand that you are the commissioner and in there. And so you had folks who the mayor always wrote interim. He didn't want me really to do anything. We had a conversation before I got in there, and it's kind of like, well, I'm not there for that. I think I got asked because people know I do things.
How did that conversation go with the mayor?
Well, it was clearly, he was upset based on how the Common Council had voted, and so he asked to meet with me. And this is before while he was making his decision on his different options. So I came and I brought Clarine Mitchell, who was my right-hand person, to come, and then that was when Pat Curley was still there. And so he said, well, when we got up to go into the meeting, he said, oh, no, she can't come. And I'm like, well, why? Why can't she come? I said, so it's just going to be the mayor and me, or are you going to be there? And of course he goes, well, okay, Pat, and I do. And I said, so I thought, well, I'll just leave it, I'll see. But as we got in there, I had a list. I'd given him a letter. I had a list of things, goals that I thought, depending on what I could do. And part of that was figure out what the mess was when I got there.
Right.
Make recommendations on what I could do, while I was there. And then also recommendations that are more longer term that whoever was going to come in and be the more permanent person could do. So that was my goal. But then he said to me, well, I don't want you to do anything while you're here. I don't want you to change. And I was like, excuse me? I said, well, that's not what I do. I assuming I got asked to come in here, not to sit here. So I said so I'm very clear on not doing that. And I thought he understood that, but even within the few months I was there, came an issue before, and that's when he said, that's what I said, well, you really did tell me you didn't want anything to happen, because like, for instance, I told him, the person who was second in command from Bevan, I made it very clear to him I needed her to stay, because this was February when I was there. The manager, the budget manager had left in December. Worst time for your budget person to leave, right, is in December, when you don't know what happened the year before, even putting the budget together for the next year. So I needed her there, and he made sure that he moved her right away. But then I found out that the reason he moved her because a lot of the stuff that was going on, right, she was responsible for.
So it was a couple of big issues that you had to tackle right away.
Large issues, right.
It was the lead and making sure the parents were informed that
right.
the children were exposed to
right.
lead. And there was also this cluster of syphilis and HIV among young people. How did you tackle those
right.
issues?
Well, even then, if you mentioned like the cluster, because it wasn't really a cluster, because the cluster is different, in that all the people in that have to have the disease. So
Okay.
even when I found out, I'm like, you can't use that, as the term, and they were using that. So just getting people to even not get in front of the cameras and talk about things that they don't know about as much, I found was problematic. I found you have a lot of people who are entrenched in there, who've been there. I found people who don't like to work with black people, including me, and they talk about, watching all this stuff on TV, about the deep state
Right.
they're talking about, all the time. I thought, this kind of is probably what that looks like because you got people embedded in there. And I thought, poor Bevan, my God,
Well,
how did he get anything done?
well, let's talk about that. You've been viewed as a person that sometimes is difficult to work with.
Yes.
What are some of the misconceptions that you have, or that people have about you that you would like to clear up?
Well, I think sometimes I am difficult to work with because I'm not going to go along with the status quo. I'm not going to do what people want me to do if it's not right for the community. When I was there at the health department, health is extremely important to me, and I can't look at health through a political lens. So, or even when I'm not at the health department, it may be because I'm always looking at the community first, and I find that that's difficult for people. They wanted you to work and do what they want to do. To be very honest, that's how the Black Health Coalition got started. For me to be in an organization where I can advocate and do what I felt was important for the community. Have I paid for it? Yes. It's hard to get funding. Not to mention the grant we just got taken away from us, but it's you pay. That's part of it. But I think most people know that what I care about, because it had to be about 15 years ago, a new person came for Next Door Foundation. Somebody mentioned I should meet him, So I met him, a white male, and I was talking a little bit, and he just stopped me right in the middle and said, you're nothing like they told me you were.
Okay.
And I said, what? They told me I was a racist, that I was hard. But he said, yeah. He said, you're none of that. You just know what you want to do straight up. So that kind of answers that.